Sometimes the best stories in golf aren't found on tour. You'll find them at the back of the range. And here's your host, Ben Adelberg.
Thank you again for joining me here at the back of the range. I'm your host, Ben Adelberg. This is episode 33. It's PGA Championship week, the final major of the year. Lots of Ryder Cup points are also at stake, so it is a very exciting and important week in the game of golf. I hope that everyone is excited for the tournament. I know I'll be watching a lot of it, but I won't be watching it from home. So if you're following us on social media, you may already know that we are heading out of town for another amazing golf trip. I'll be returning to Scotland and more specifically, St. Andrews, the home of golf, to participate in the Eden tournament. You'll learn a lot more about that tournament pretty soon, but I haven't been to Scotland to participate in this tournament in a couple of years. I cannot wait to get back there. Now, I know what you're thinking. Does this mean that there won't be an episode next week? Come on. Of course there will. You can expect an episode next Wednesday because it's actually U.S. Amateur Week out in Pebble Beach. You think our guest might have something to do with the U.S. Amateur? I'd say that's a pretty safe bet. You do not want to miss this episode. So for all of our listeners, I'll be posting tons of photos and videos throughout the entire trip in Scotland. I actually have some podcast interviews lined up while I'm there. So the clubs are getting packed along with the microphones. I'll be playing a lot of golf, talking to some amazing people in St. Andrews, so stay tuned for that next week. So I do this all the time, but I'm going to keep doing it. Thank you so much for the support of this podcast. When you tell people about it, tell them you can find us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. The central hub, as always, is thebackoftherange.com. That's where you can find all the previous episodes. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You'll find that information in the show notes of this podcast. And if you're listening and you like what you hear, please leave a review. Can't stress that enough. I will keep bringing you amazing guests each and every week. So speaking of Instagram, we've started something called Free Towel Tuesdays. You know the drill. Like our post on Tuesdays on Instagram, tell some friends, maybe give a tournament pick like we did this week for the PGA Championship. You'll be entered in a drawing, and we are sending free towels out every single week. So just a little thank you to all of you that have shown support for the podcast. And if you do have one of those towels in your possession, post it and tag us on social media. We need to get the word out, need to tell everyone about this podcast. Now, I won't be in town next week, so does that mean we're not going to do a Free Towel Tuesday? Yeah, pretty much, but I think we're going to do a St. Andrews-inspired giveaway. So I'll hook somebody up with a souvenir from St. Andrews. So again, stay tuned, follow us on Instagram and all of the other social media platforms. So our guest this week is Patrick Gibbons. He's the owner of Patrick Gibbons Handmade. It's a little bit of a different episode this week, but remember, we like good stories here at the back of the range. This is a great one. So how does Patrick's company relate to the game of golf? Well, Patrick found himself at a fork in the road, so to speak, career-wise, and he chose the path of building a company that sells exotic leather golf goods. His start was humble, but now his product line includes belts made of, well, just about any skin you could think of, head covers, yardage book covers, valuables pouches. He makes it all. And if you're going to be watching the PGA Championship, and especially the Ryder Cup on TV this year, there's an excellent chance that you'll be seeing some of his handiwork in the hands of the best players in the world. More on that later. So let's go to the interview now with Patrick Gibbons. Patrick, welcome to the Back of the Range Golf Podcast.
Thanks for having me, Ben. Appreciate it.
Hey, no problem. So you're out there in the desert in Arizona. Just to put it in perspective for people that see desert golf and think it's pretty cool, but may not necessarily live out there. What's the temperature out there today right now? It's actually at noon. We're recording this, which is, perfect timing. What's the weather like out there?
I believe today's supposed to be about 111.
Dear God. What do you do?
Yeah,
what do you do when it's 111 degrees? I mean, you can't do anything, can you?
No. I mean, after you've been here for a couple of years, the blood thins out, and but 114 is when it gets a little bit ridiculous.
Yeah, that's when it really gets to the point where like we got to talk about this. Yeah.
Yeah, 100 to 104, piece of cake.
Yeah.
When it gets above 104, it's like, all right, let's find some shade. Maybe we're not going to play golf at 1 today. Maybe we have to start at 11. And, there's always movie theaters, which are always cold. So
how much do you want to smack people around when they tell you that it's just a dry heat? Is that just really overused?
No, absolutely not. I use it.
Oh, okay.
Because I use it all the time because, friends back, in Chicago or Ohio, when I tell them, hey, you should come out here, move out here. And then they bring up, it's like 111. And yeah, but it's a dry heat. It's totally different.
Yeah. Yeah,
it is.
Yeah, I believe you. I'm just down here in South Florida where it's a sweatbox all the time in the summer. But so let's actually introduce yourself to the listeners here of the Back of the Range podcast. We have a lot of amateur players, a lot of professionals, college coaches that have been guests in the past. But your connection to golf is very unique, and I really enjoyed the story of how you started your company, Gibbons Handmade. Tell me how you got into doing what you're doing, and explain your business and what you do for the game of golf.
I make exotic golf accessories, from head covers to bags to yardage books, belts, all sorts of stuff like that. And my previous life, I was in land development and home building, and had done that through high school and college and after college. And in 2008, with the economy correcting itself, I received a phone call from our office in Chicago that said, hey, tomorrow, let everybody know that they're released and it's the last day. The company's shutting down.
Jeez.
And you're included on that.
Nice little bonus.
So, yeah. Well, they did offer. They said, hey, if you'd like to come in for 2 days next week and box things up, we'll pay you. Once I found that out, for the next 2 weeks, it was just kind of numb, figuring out like, hey, this is what I've always done. What am I going to do?
Sure.
And, in that process, I was in my home office, and in my office, I had a collection of putters from my putter addiction that I had hanging on my wall. And I was looking at them and saw one of the grips and thought, hey, what if I made exotic putter grips? Because I'd sort of played that high school guidance counselor role where in a conversation, I asked myself if I could do anything in the world tomorrow, what would it be? And my answer that I came up was I would go golfing.
Okay.
And I immediately knew that, well, I'm not going to make a living at it because I'm not good at it or good enough. And that's when, I was looking at that putter grip and thought, you know what, I bet you I can make an exotic putter grip. And
let me just,
that's where it started.
Yeah. So you're so just to recap, you're in this real estate development career path. The collapse in 2008 forced you out. And did you have any experience making any of these things? I mean, your items, we're gonna have links to your website and samples of your goods on all of our social media channels. And I mean, the things you're making are just absolutely insane, whether it's belts and yardage book covers and these grips. Did you have any experience in doing this whatsoever when you started?
No. I mean, I was an art major, design major in college, and we would have projects where we'd have to make little things.
Yeah, I dissected a frog too, but I mean, that doesn't mean I can make, leather grips and belts and things like that. So you had a couple little projects when you got started, but really no experience creating these sort of goods.
No, I went to our local golf shop and bought a bunch of putter grips, wind putter grips, and ripped off the shell, the outside case of it, and taped it up and created a template for what size the grip would need to be to get around it. I ordered some exotic leather from eBay and had it delivered, and cut out the size of it, the shape, and proceeded to put holes in it, sort of measure, and this hole should go here and here on each side, and then stitched it up, and it was awful.
Okay.
I still have it.
Okay.
I still have it because it's just a reminder of really how where I came from, how bad things were at the beginning, and over the next year, I just I would learn kind of tricks from people in the leather business, and they'd get a little bit better and a little bit better, and then somebody came to me and said, hey, we can make a die for you that will cut the shape out and all 96 holes at once. You don't have to do it. So it just sort of progressed. And then with the putter grip, and being a putter addict, it was like, well, if I make a putter grip, I should make a putter head cover that matches.
Of course.
So I started doing that, and I bought a sewing machine that had like a little governor on the pedal, so that if I pushed the pedal all the way down, it would only go so fast.
Sure.
And those weren't that good. So, I started, researching. It started from very, very poor quality at the beginning.
Yeah.
But, I started meeting people, learning different techniques, meeting people that I would bring on board for projects. And, a lot of them produced bad things. Some produced better. And just developed a team that, could help with production.
Now, and did you start this more of just as a project to kind of keep your mind occupied while you're trying to figure out your next move? Or did you?
No.
Okay. So you just said, hey, this is going to be my company. I'm building a business here was that your goal when you first started?
Yeah, absolutely. That was,
okay.
And I'd have friends and family members, say to me, do you really think that you can make a living doing this?
Right.
And, I was a putter collector. I mean, I buy some of the goofiest things out there, and I buy a lot of them, but yeah, if I get to a point where I can make these, at a high enough quality, this is what I plan on doing. It got to the point where there were so many people that were saying this is never going to go anywhere. It just became an obsession to prove them wrong and be a part of golf and make things.
The quality of what you're putting out now, I followed your progress over the years and really kind of kept up with the different items that you provide. But yeah, as you said, you're starting a exotic high-end leather, a golf leather company during a recession, basically. And yeah, not many people are probably drawing up that strategy at that particular time. Not to get too, personal into the financial history of your start, but was there ever a point where you just were like, man, I just don't know if I'm going to be able to do this?
Oh yeah, I have it every day. I still have it.
Okay. All right. But you're selling stuff now, and yeah.
But at the beginning, listen, I was ignorant going into it. I didn't even think about, what you just said, starting a high-end exotic leather company in one of the worst economies in our country's history. I just wanted to do it. It was ignorance. Because if I had thought about it, if I go back and look at it now, I figured out a couple of years ago, had I just gone and worked at McDonald's 40 hours a week, I would have been better off. I didn't have a business plan. I didn't have a marketing strategy. I didn't have, hey, this is the money I'm going to invest and that's it. And here's how I'm going to invest it. It was a type of thing where, all right, I need a couple $100 to get a skin. I'll go do that. When it was time to develop my own underlisting for the putter, I sold a motorcycle to go get that done. I cashed out of a 401k savings plan to keep the company going through the years. If I were to do it today, knowing what I know, things would have been a lot smoother.
Oh, yeah.
And, things would have gotten, to a level, faster, but it was wasn't dumb luck, because I don't believe in luck, but, fortunately the ignorance was there because, yeah, looking back on it, when I reach year 5, it's like, where is this going? What are you doing? You need to eat. You need to pay people, and it's it wasn't easy.
Yeah. Well, it also sounds like, it sounds almost like you're talking about it as if you're kind of like a mini tour player. Where you're just living week to week out of your car, just trying to keep the dream alive. I mean, that's really kind of why I was drawn to your story, because you just sound like a guy chasing a mini tour dream, actually.
Yeah, and like a mini tour player that maybe has a sponsor that throws them some money occasionally to kind of keep it going. I had one customer at the beginning. He was my first addict. Got a handful of customers over the years that we sort of refer to as our addicts. But our first one, he averaged like 1.2 belts he'd order per week for the first 47 weeks.
Oh
and
God.
He has a lot of belts. But, without him, there wouldn't have been, I would have probably been forced to just stop way back then.
Well, and the thing about your products is that they're so unique as far as, like, I'm just, just going off of the materials of the belts, whether it's alligator, crocodile, lizard, ostrich, shark, stingray, snake. I mean, these things aren't cheap. And I mean, was there a huge market for this when you started? I mean, were people really thinking like, you know what, I like what the guys on tour are wearing. I'm going to get one of those for myself. I mean, was that really out there at the time?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think that's the unique thing about golf is that the public sees what people on tour are wearing or playing with, and they want them. You don't see that in football. You don't see it in golf or baseball. But in golf, it's there. And, there's always been, a desire from people.
So one of the more unique products that you have, which I I just have to know the story. So tell me about the ex-fiance line.
Well, when I got started, I was in with Handmade. I was engaged, and we had been together for about 6 years. And one day, she happened to be out of the house, and I needed to grab something from her closet. And when I was in there, I noticed a Louis Vuitton bag that was in the corner. And, in the 6 years that we were together, I never saw her use it. And I picked it up, and the leather was a little tattered. There was a zipper broken, and obviously she never used it. And I thought, hey, this would be neat to cut up and make into some things. So,
okay.
So I did. I cut it up, and I didn't wait for her to get home to ask if I could do it. I just did it, and I thought she would think it was kind of cool that hey, there's a grip or there's a head cover, or, we made a pair of wingtip golf shoes with them. But apparently, even though it's tattered and in the condition it was, she was not happy when she found out about its current condition and uses.
Shocking.
So I got to sleep on a couch for about a week.
So from that, you pretty much. Now, do you have customers that are sending you stuff like this, like old purses from old girlfriends and ex-wives, and they're just like, yeah, make me a belt out of this?
Yeah, I get, I had a customer this spring. I think he sent me 6 or 7 bags.
Okay.
After that, another customer, contacted me, or, guy contacted me through Instagram and said, hey, I've got my ex-wife's bags. I saw what you did. Can I send you mine? I'd love to have you cut them up, turn them into something that I could use. It's just kind of out of spite, but, so yeah, they send products in, and there are bags in, and, we cut them up and turn them we upcycle them. We give them a new life.
Exactly. So as you said, you're still every single day just wondering if this thing's going to work. You've been doing this for quite some time. I think you're coming up on 8 or 9 years now in the business. Can you remember the first time that you received kind of a inquiry from someone, whether it's a well-known player on tour or whether it was someone I guess my question is there an order that really stuck out in your mind that said, hey, wait a minute, people are starting to find out about this stuff now?
Yeah, a couple months ago, this might not be the first one, but a couple months ago, one that sticks out in my mind is, getting contacted by a golf pro who was playing with Larry the Cable Guy. And, he contacted me and said, hey, I'm here with Larry the Cable Guy. He's interested to see if you'd be able to make him, this type of head cover with this image on it. And, he's really wanted one. He hasn't been able to find a place, that would do it. And yeah, absolutely, we can do it. So, that's one that's just stood out recently.
And now you've done also head covers for, you've done head covers and yardage book covers for some guys that have played on the Ryder Cup team. Tell me about what you've done for Patrick Reed.
Well, a couple years ago, we made him an American flag yardage book. We'd also made a hand-painted head cover and sent it to him, but it never arrived in the locker room for the Ryder Cup, so he never got that. But he did get the yardage book that we sent, and it was an hand-cut inlay lizard yardage book that he put into play for his first Ryder Cup. And at the time of the second Ryder Cup, he had sent the picture and asked if we could refurbish it for him.
Sure. And
the thing had been used for 2 years. There wasn't really any refurbishing we could do. So he ordered one for himself, and then he bought one for each of the coaches or captains on the team. But he always seems to go back to that original one. Sort of a good luck charm, I guess.
Sure. Now you have also other clients that, whether they're professional football players or they're NASCAR drivers, things like that. You're getting a lot of attention there. Are those the customers that you're really chasing after, or are you kind of targeting guys that are like similar to your beginnings, guys that are on the mini tours, guys that are kind of chasing it? Like, what's your ideal customer base that you kind of like to take care of at this point?
Well, anybody that wants a product, I want to take care of them.
Sure.
One guy that might be an athlete or celebrity isn't going to get more of my attention than, the guy from Kansas that's a weekend golfer. My focus, the people that I like as customers are guys that are creative, that like us, that have a certain style where else are they going to get it?
Sure.
There were this past year, Father's Day, I had the honor of getting 2 calls from one was a player on the LPGA, and the other was the wife of a former football player, and both of them had just recently had babies, so it was going to be the father's first Father's Day, and they contacted me to create head covers as Father's Day gifts. And I thought that to me, got kind of, sappy or touched, whatever,
Sure.
That was a pretty big honor. One, that they thought of handmade. And two, it's going to be their first Father's Day gifts that, ever. It's their first children. That was fantastic. But, the other thing, just guys that like unique products, that want custom. I mean, you can go to, most of the golf shops out there and get inexpensive products that do the job, that are made overseas. And that's fine. It serves a purpose. I like to create things that are somewhat new, original. Maybe they can be edgy, but where guys can say, hey, are you capable of doing this for me? This is what I'm looking for. And then being able to go fill that for them. That's my main goal.
Gotcha. And what you mentioned the LPGA, and that actually was leading me into to next question. Are you getting a lot of orders from women on the LPGA tour? I would think some of your goods would be would be perfect for whether it's a same thing you're doing for the men. Are you getting a lot of attention from the ladies, or not just even on the tour, but just in general? Are you producing a lot of products for women?
We produce products for women on the LPGA or Symetra or, in college. It's definitely, as the company has grown and more people have become aware of it, those doors open up and, we'll get contacted by, a player saying, hey, this is what I'm looking for. Can you make this? Or I saw so-and-so has a yardage book or a head cover. I'd like one, and this is what I'd like, mine to be.
I'm looking at some of the items on your website. Explain to me how you came up with the, so to speak, the Effet brand.
Well, years ago, when Handmade first got started, I was in a seminar, kind of like a business growth seminar, and it was a 90-day group, and I used that phrase a lot. And it just kind of became a joke amongst the other teammates of Patrick has a case of the Effet. And at one point, few years ago, I was struggling really bad, more than usual, with my drives. And, the question I'd always ask as we're, getting up to the tee box is, do I hit the driver and where I don't know where it's going? Or do I, go with a rescue or iron and so a lot of the times it was just, F it, go with the driver. So it seemed appropriate for my game that I make a head cover that said that.
Nice.
And it turns out that I'm not alone. Other people have the same driving issues.
Sure. Which product, I guess, I know you have different, leathers and different things. Has there been one product or one idea that's been a very personal thing with you that's really taken off, that's been kind of a surprise?
There's been a bunch of ones where I was like, I didn't think that
right.
I was making it for myself. I mean, the first one is the ex-fiance, products.
Sure.
I didn't really think that, there'd be more being made. The Effet driver has been very popular. And then there's been some, various versions of the Effet driver that people have requested that we've made. You might be able to figure them out, but, we've made those. So, I had a customer friend. He's a close friend now. It's been a customer for years. And, he had come to me at one point and had asked, hey, would you be able to take, two pieces of leather, put them back to back, like an alligator, just in a circle, stitch them together, and, I'm going to use it as a ball marker. And I said, yeah, that would be really simple to do, but, it's going to be on grass. There's the fertilizer. It's going to end up in a bad shape. Let me see if I can take your concept and sort of, adapt it to something better. And, it turns out we found these metal discs that we could actually insert the skin into. And so we made ball markers for them. And, from him handing them out, or from, being on social media, people started ordering those, where it was like, this was just supposed to be, a couple little things for one guy. And it turns out, all of a sudden we're making, hundreds of them.
And how you just mentioned social media and how big, like, do you think you would have been able to get this off the ground without social media? Like, have things really exploded for you now that you're just able to share things quickly on Instagram or on Twitter? Is it part your product, but also part timing of the culture of business, where you can just share this stuff so quickly? And not only that, but your customers can take pictures of your products and share them with their friends?
Well, I think social media has absolutely helped. I think that, at the beginning when, there was Facebook there wasn't Instagram, there wasn't Twitter. When it was just like the beginning stages of Facebook, we were knocking on more doors. It was more, the word was getting out more through the golf forums, like Golf WRX, or Putter Talk, Hackers Paradise, that type of word of mouth that was smaller, and you kind of had to be in those communities to have heard about it. But with social media, something can be posted, and all of a sudden, 100 people are sharing it to their friends, and just the world has gotten smaller with the social media avenues. It's absolutely helped. I would have just taken a different approach, as far as how the word got out, but it's definitely sped it up.
Sure. And of the players that you see on tour, that I guess this is probably like a pie in the sky wish, but are there guys that you see on tour that you're like, man, I'd love to have this guy wearing my stuff, not for necessarily the business purpose of it, but are there stylish players out there, whether on the PGA Tour, LPGA Tour champions, that you're like, man, I need to send them some stuff?
For me, fashion wise, I've always been a fan of Ian Poulter. I think I could make some really cool things to go with some of his outfits, and would love the opportunity. We'll see if that ever happens.
Nice. So where do you see the company going? Is this something that you want to partner up with like a larger firm at some point, or do you want to stay independent? Do you have any long-term goals, or where do you see Handmade going in the next 5-10 years?
Well, right now, my focus is on, obviously marketing, because at the beginning when the company started, I was naive and thought, hey, if I could just make something really cool, it'll fly off the shelf, and didn't really pay attention or realize, about marketing. So, I still continue with getting the word out there to people, but that's worked so far. And, we're growing, we're getting more orders. And now a big chunk of the focus is on, being able to expand our production line to take the orders so that, the people don't have to wait 6 weeks for a product. I want to keep the quality at the level or better than it's at now. However, I'd like to speed up production. So like this past week, we've basically figured out a way to be able to increase the production of our head covers by about 500%.
Wow.
That will then allow us to, really focus on marketing to fill that 500%. So it's a game of getting the sales and then, filling the orders and getting more and more and more sales, and still being able to fulfill the orders, at the level that I expect, especially since it has my name on it.
Oh, of course. No, I imagine there's such a sense of pride and ownership with everything that you do. You're located in Arizona, but you also have employees working for you in Portland, Oregon. Just to give people an idea of the volume of what you produce, maybe on a week. I know that's kind of a tough question to give me, a specific, but can you possibly give me an idea of how many unique products are created each week? Between all the products that we do, and it's and we have a shop, both in Portland and in Texas. So there's some products that are made in Portland, some are made in Texas, but between the two states, we're doing, hundreds of head covers each week, hundreds of belts,
a whole bunch of yardage books, and then, a handful of the other products. So, yes, I'm in Arizona. At least that's where the driver's license says, but, it's going between, Oregon and Texas, and then heading out to tournaments for tournament gifts and sizing and all that stuff. So,
well, we kind of end these episodes with a kind of just random questions here to Quick Bucket episode, or the Quick Bucket questions here at the Back of the Range Golf Podcast. So I've asked these questions to a lot of people, and you're no exception. So, give me the answer to this question. Jack Nicklaus won the Masters in 1986. Compare that victory to Tiger Woods potentially winning a fifth green jacket. Which would be the bigger victory in your mind?
Well, at this point, I think Tiger winning another Masters would be the bigger story. I mean, I understand Jack's age at the time and all that, but considering, Tiger's health over the year, his absence from the game for the period that he was, his comeback attempts, Tiger wins another Masters. That's bigger to me, and it gets him one closer to Jack's title, or amount of championships, majors.
Absolutely. If you can give a major championship to anyone in history, who would that be? They could have no majors or 18 majors. Anyone you want to, alive or dead. Who would you give a major to?
Oh. Well, that's going to get me possibly in trouble with some of my friends that are out there saying, "Why don't you give it to me?"
Well, you can't give it to Reed. Reed's already got one, so you're kind of
he's
off.
He's got one. I would want to give one to Lee Westwood.
Very popular answer. I have no problem with that one. That's a very, very popular one.
Followed closely by Pat Perez.
Has he been a customer of yours?
Pat was a partner of mine for a year. In the company. And I love Pat. I love Pat, his wife, Ashley. They've got their first baby on the way. Pat's the most real person I've ever met. He doesn't have a filter. He's not mean,
right?
Like no filter. He's mean. He just, if you ask him a question, be prepared that you may not like the answer,
yep.
But he's going to answer it. And that's a quality that I don't have. I sugarcoat things and kind of pussyfoot around answers at times. And Pat's just, hey, here's what it is. I mean, he's the most genuine person I think I've ever met.
Do you think that, he's a very unique person on the PGA Tour? I really enjoy it when he's playing well. I really enjoy just kind of the way he goes about it. Are there enough people like that on tour? Do you think that perhaps that's something that the PGA Tour is missing, just more real people like him?
Yeah, I mean, I think the PGA Tour is very protective of their image because of the corporate sponsors. And I think that there's, especially with today with the social media and how fast things can get out and how things can be misinterpreted. I mean, I understand how guys are reserved, and that it's not a sport, like basketball where you have guaranteed money. You can, in those sports, you can say what you want to say. It's not going to affect their earnings. With golf, especially with sponsorship, that I understand that guys, you don't want to rub people the wrong way. And, hey, maybe it's not the best that I give this answer because of the consequences that could happen. I'd like to see it more. I would think that, these guys are obviously the best in the world at what they do. I respect that. I just think that, they're people, they make mistakes.
Sure.
They have thoughts and feelings and all that sort of stuff. And, I think at sometimes just to, so that they're not up on some pedestal, not that they don't deserve to be, but they're regular guys. If you ask them what their thoughts are, it would be nice to as people, communicate amongst each other honestly.
Well, Patrick, I really appreciate the time. Really appreciate what you're doing for adding some more flavor into the game of golf that everyone loves. We'll definitely put some links to your products, and hopefully all the listeners will go ahead and enjoy them. So again, thank you for being here at the Back of the Range Golf Podcast.
Well, thanks for having me, Ben. I appreciate it.
And there you have it, another great episode here at the Back of the Range Golf Podcast. Thank you so much to Patrick Gibbons. Great story, great company. Check out our show notes for links to his company's website. He has great offerings there. Go check that out. Support a local business. Well, I am out of here, heading to St. Andrews. Stay tuned on our social media platforms. I'll be posting tons of pictures and videos. And don't forget, we will have an episode next week. It is U.S. Amateur Week. Seriously, stay tuned for this upcoming guest. Hope you all have a great week. Enjoy the PGA Championship. I'll see you next time here at the Back of the Range.